What if the real reason that you feel broken isn't because of your trauma, but because your soul remembers a fall that happened thousands of years ago? And I'm not talking about a mindset block here. I'm talking about a cosmic fracture, the one that split us from our original divine design, from source and from each other. And what if your anxiety, your people pleasing, your fear of being seen wasn't a dysfunction, but ancient memory surfacing? I'm Anne Varney, Talk with Anne and Spirit podcast. In this episode, I'm taking you back to the Atlantis, the Emerald Tablets, and the Book of Enoch, not as history, but as activation. Because once you see the real reason you've been feeling disconnected, you'll never look at healing the same way again. I know I certainly did. So stay with me, because this isn't a story, it's a remembrance. Now, let's just name it. Something happened to humanity, and most people can feel it, even if they don't know how to see it. There's this ache, this low hum of something's off. We've all been playing a game we didn't agree to. Yeah, running a race we didn't choose, living a system that was never built for our wholeness. But you can feel it in your nervous system, you can feel it in your relationships, and you can certainly feel it in your body. Every time you collapse, overgive, sabotage your success, or even stay silent when your truth is burning in your chest. This isn't just trauma, guys. It's older than trauma. It's something deeper, more ancient, something soul level. And there's a fracture, there's a split, a disconnect from who we are, or who we were, should I say, before the shame, the fear, the pretending. Now, that sense of I was meant for more than this. I really was meant for more than this. And here's the part that most of the world doesn't want to talk about, that we were tampered with. Not in a movie way, not in a conspiracy theory kind of way, in a very real, very spiritual way. And there was a time long ago in what we now call Atlantis, where humanity walked with light, with source. We weren't confused. We certainly weren't chasing validation, grinding to survive, or performing for worth. We were embodied, intuitive, powerful, deeply connected to earth, to our source, to our power, and also to each other. There was no separation, but something shifted. Power got disconnected from love. Wisdom was hoarded, and technology, wow, technology was abused. Light was turned into control. Now, some call it the fall of Atlantis. Some call it the Watchers from the Book of Enoch. Some call it the codes hidden in the Emerald Tablets. Different names, same event. A fracture, a misuse of energy, a corruption of the original design. And that moment, that cosmic betrayal, is still echoing through your bodies today, right now. It really is. Yeah. You feel it every time you doubt your power, every time you fear being seen, every time you silence your initiation to stay safe or accepted. Now, every time that you shrink because it's easier than leading, this isn't just psychology. It's ancestral memory. It's spiritual interruption. It's a distortion in the original human blueprint, one that has been passed down through DNA. Those stories, energetic recoding for thousands and thousands of years, 12,000 years, even more. And now we're starting to wake up, not just to heal, but to rewrite the outcome. Because let's be honest, we need to do something for our planet. Yeah, we need to do something for ourselves, for our light, for our power, and to reclaim the parts of us that were never broken, that were just buried. That's the work. That's the real work. It's not fixing yourself, it's but remembering who you really are, returning to the version of you that never ever left the light. And it starts here, it starts now. And let's start with Atlantis. And let's stop pretending it was just a myth. Yeah, some chaotic fable about a city swallowed by the sea. Atlantis was real. And I remember many years ago, and it was probably in my teens and my early 20s, and I used to do astral travel. I would never tell anybody because I would think they would put me, they would section me, they would think I was off my head. And I remember I used to go on these astral travels. And I would go to Atlantis. I would go up the steps, these big, huge columns, and everybody, the love that was at this place, the light, the source. Same with all the spiritual temples, Chichen Itza. As soon as I was walking along Chichen Itza, that beautiful energy, as says Dave, I've been here. I've been here. And then I remembered that I was actually used to come here when I used to astral travel, when I used to meditate, and it was so like home to me. All these spiritual places I've been to around the world. Now, Atlantis was real, and you don't need to take my word for it. You'll already feel it in your bones. If you're watching this, you will feel this in your bones. But for the ones who still need proof in this timeline, here's what they're not teaching you at school. In the middle of the Sahara, there's a place called Richat Structure, Richat, the Eye of the Sahara. Now, it's massive. It's a circular geological formation that matches Pluto's exact description of Atlantis. Ringed with water, mountains to the north, and an open ocean to the south, and they call it a coincidence. What I call it is memory surfacing. Or you can go and watch Bright Insight. Is this the lost city of Atlantis? I watched it last night. Off the coast of Japan, divers found this Yonaguni, say that with your teeth in, monument with a giant underwater steps and platforms and terraces that were definitely man-made. And they were submerged structures that predate written history, not nature, and definitely not modern. Yeah. Also, another thing you could watch is featured in Atlantis Rising with the Natural Geographic with James Cameron, the Ancient Aliens. Look at there too. And in Turkey, there's also a site called, again, say it with my teeth in, Göbekli Tepe. If anybody can say it better, it's discovered in the 90s, now dated over 12,000 years old. The stone temples that have existed before we were supposedly even civilized. This was no caveman camp. This was post-fall wisdom seeded from survivors. And then there's Bimini Road. You can say that, no problem. It's in the Bahamas. Just watched that last night also. Giant stones, blocks laid underneath in a straight line, which was found in the year of my birthday in 1968, exactly where Edgar Casey. Now, if you don't know about Edgar Casey, go and look him up. He was a psychic back in the 60s, 50s, 60s. Absolute amazing guy. And he predicted Atlantis would rise again. Coincidence? Or memory trying to speak to us? Atlantis wasn't just a city, it was a civilization of frequency, a place where they understood energy, sound, water, DNA, and Earth itself as a living intelligence. Now, Atlanteans were light-bodied, heart-centered. They were grid-working beings who didn't need technology. They were the tech. Our bodies were calibrated to truth. Our voices are the healing. Our knowing It was clean. It wasn't traumatized. It wasn't tainted. It was sacred until it wasn't, that is. Because eventually love got severed from power. It really did. And that's what the same divine tools, the sound chambers, the crystal grids, the frequency fields started being used for something else. Control, manipulation, hierarchy, God complex distortion, just to name a few. They started splitting soul from the body. They started cloning. They started tearing through timelines. They started trying to own what could only be stewarded. The fracture happened. So some stay aligned, the sons of light, the priestesses, the gatekeepers, the grid keepers, and others twisted the codes. The sons of Belial, driven by domination, and the few destabilized. Atlantis didn't just fall, it cracked. Now, a lot of you may say, oh, this is too woo for me, Anne. This is really too woo. But I am in a zone energy here that coincidences that are coming up, and Atlantis is coming up strong, along with the Emerald Tablets and along with the Book of Enoch, which blows my mind, you know, and when I think back of all the things I've seen, witnessed, where I've been, and all the rest, it always starting to tie in. Because Atlantis collapsed under the weight of unintegrated power, and the earth's responded. And it responded with the floods, with fire, and definitely with finality. Before it went under, some of us got out. One of them was Thoth. Let me know in the comments. And a nice wee bell there went as we went. Let me know in the comments. Do you know about Thoth? What do you know? I'm curious. I'd love to know things. I know quite a bit about, because I've studied the Egyptian. Our oracle code is based on Egyptian mythology, as well as the energy that was downloaded at the Trump temple in Cambodia. And the energy is beautifully, beautifully and masterfully helping us to be the light and be remembered. Now, Thoth was a master of sacred geometry and energetic law. He didn't write it down, what happened in books. He encoded it. And he encoded it into the Emerald Tablets. Indestructible wisdom, light frequency in script form. It was a message to the future, to us. Are we stepping forward? We've been in our missions. And now it's really resurfacing, and it's surfacing like, whoa, massively in structures, in documentaries, even in the whispers of your own body. Atlantis isn't history. It's a memory that's resurfacing in your field. And if you've ever feared your power, feared being fully seen, or felt like you were born to rebuild something ancient but sacred, you didn't make that up. Or even you felt like you came from somewhere else, you didn't make that up either. You just remember. And now it's time to rebuild it from love this time, not distortion. Yeah. Now, the Emerald Tablets, these weren't books. The tablets weren't books. They weren't stories. They weren't meant to be understood with the mind. They were light-coded records, messages encoded into frequency, not written to be studied, but to be activated. They were created by Thoth, the Atlantean priest, scientist, who escaped the collapse. And it was really interesting that I'm meant to be in South America just now, meant to be in Colombia. We got sent back. We didn't get past Costa Rica, and we decided to come back to Mexico. We'd already been in Mexico, decided to come back to Mexico. And this is where the Mayans is. This is where anti-Atlantean codes reside. Is that coincidence? Maybe not, especially when I'm on a quest with helping people remember who they are, what their power is, and where their light is. Yeah, so just he carried the codes of an entire fallen world into Egypt, embedding them into temples, geometry, into sound, the sound and stone. Now, the Emerald Tablets are what he left behind, not for the scholars, and certainly not for the elite, but for us light workers. The one who would feel the call, the ones who would start waking up with no rational expectation, the ones who would remember, even if they couldn't explain how. These tablets held the truth of what we were told, the soul grid. You know, we use the soul grid in the Oracle Code, which is a full multidimensional energy field before distortion, just like the central column of light. Yeah. There's a divine architecture on how to live, build, how to lead and create from source. We do all this. And then you have the fall in the Oracle, the Emerald Tablets. What happens when love is separated with power from your power? When is that? When it's separated from that, you become separated, because we're all connected in consciousness at any given time, in any space, regardless of how many miles away you are from each other. And then we return how to remember who we were and recode the earth through the body. And they warned us. They really, you see it in the texts, they will be the ones who live in the shadow, who feed on fear, who twist the cords and hollow out truth. They didn't call them demons, they called them enemies, because they called them the dark ones. But here's what you need to understand. It's not about evil. It isn't good versus bad fantasy. This is about disconnection. That's what it's about, disconnection. Because when you unplug from source, when you forget you are the light, you'll start reaching for power outside of yourself. And that's what happened in Atlantis. That's what's happening now. People chasing false success, performing identities, manipulated energy, over identifying with their trauma, their image, their ego, their victim. They're not bad. They're just unplugged from source. And the Emerald Tablets were never meant to control us. They were meant to guide us back. Now, there is still some, you can look online, especially YouTube. YouTube is brilliant for looking at things like this. There's the Emerald Tablets by Thoth, the Atlantean, where there's some, Dan Winter is doing a full reading on YouTube. I'll put the videos down in the chat. There's the Emerald Tablets Decoded by Billy Carson, Forbidden Knowledge. Now, Billy Carson has been a modern voice helping bridge the tablets to modern awakening, intro to Thoth, and what the tablets reveal is there. And then you've got the Book of Thoth and the Kabbalion. Both echo the original teachings if you want to read that too. But remember, this isn't about reading. You've got to feel the light codes. You've got to allow them to reawaken in your system. And if you feel like you're remembering something when you hear this, if your body lights up, if your throat tightens, you know, if your stomach turns on your skin or it buzzes, even if there's a tightness, that's you helping remember. You can even feel the hairs on the goosebumps and what have you, because your body will tell you. It's not drama. It's not imagination. It's an activation. You know, that's your inner system saying, you knew this once. It's time to remember again. And you certainly don't need a guru. You are the guru. You don't need to decode the tablets word for word. You just need to reconnect to source with your own soul grid. Now, the Oracle Code isn't a course, it's a return to what was lost. It's what lives inside you still. It's what was waking up. Now, let's talk about Enoch, the ancient texts. You know, stripped from the Bible, let's It tells the same story, but from a different angle. Now, in it, angels descend to earth. They take human women, they rape them, they do atrocities. They also teach forbidden knowledge, war, beauty, magic, astrology, weaponry, and the result, a corrupted earth, a hybrid race, a divine reset, the flood. Yeah. Now, you can call them angels, you can call them beings, you can call them advanced star racers or watchers or whatever your language is. The message is the same. The human blueprint was altered. And we've been carrying that distortion ever since in our DNA, our emotions, even in our relationships, and especially in our fear of power. Now, let's talk about Enoch for a minute here. It really, the ancient text, as I said, was stripped from the Bible. It was buried, it was discredited. And not because it was irrelevant, by the way, but because it was too close to the truth. Now, because Enoch tells the same story you just heard about Atlantis, but he tells it from a different angle, a darker one, a more uncomfortable one. Yeah, a version that pulls back the curtain on how far disconnection can go. And now, in this telling, it wasn't just technology that collapsed us, it was contact. Now, Enoch says that a group of beings known as the Watchers descended to earth, not metaphorically, literally, they came down. They weren't demons, and they certainly weren't aliens in ships. Man's intelligence, energetic, dimensional, possibly Syrian or the fallen Lyrian. But the names don't matter. And even if I could say them the right way, they don't matter. It's the impact. It's the impact that matters. These beings took women, human women as partners. They crossbred with them, creating a hybrid race. The Nephilim, they taught humans forbidden knowledge that altered the course of consciousness. Now, weapons, sorcery, astrology used for rhythm, but for manipulation. There was seduction magic going on there, root cutting, surgical birth, blood sacrifice. You name it, it was there. In other words, it was power without integrity. Now, they introduced knowledge to humans who weren't ready to hold without that embodiment. So what happened? The result was the earth was corrupted, the bloodlines were distorted, and power was hijacked. And the divine reset came, and then the flood, planetary cleanse. Now, so in other words, power without integrity. They introduced knowledge humans weren't ready to hold without embodiment. And the result of that, earth was corrupted, bloodlines were distorted, power hijacked, and the divine reset came, which was the flood, a planetary cleanse, not a punishment, a recalibration. And you can call them what you want: angels, fallen ones, watchers, star beings, technocrats, entities from a collapsed grid system. Whatever your language, the message is the same. The original human blueprint was interfered with. And the trauma of that interference still lives in us today, not as a story, but as a frequency. And you feel it every time you fear your own power. You mistrust your voice. You overthink every move. And even when you perform, and we've all done it, me included, instead of embodying what you're teaching, collapse when you get too visible, procrastinate. This is not a mindset issue. It's a wound in the collective field, a memory in the body, a distortion in your DNA. And we inherited it. We swallowed it up. And now we're here to transmute it, because Enoch wasn't just a warning, it was a map. It was a record of what happens when knowledge outruns love. and creation outpaces soul, when wisdom is wielded without embodiment. This is why the Oracle Code exists, because of this. You exist because of this. You're not here to shame the Watchers. We're here to complete the story that interrupted, to restore the feminine that was stripped. Because let's be honest, the feminine is coming online because we need to, the way the planet is going just now. And to restore the trust that was broken, to really return to source what was fragmented through fear. Now, you can look at the Book of Enoch, which is banned from the Bible. The full documentary is on YouTube. As I say, I'll put the link down below. It explains why it was removed and what it predicted. And you can also watch Billy Carson on the Anuki and the Watchers. Down below as well, Forbidden Knowledge explores the crossover of Enoch, Atlantis, and the genetic engineering. As I say, I'll put the link down there. Now, if Atlantis' fall was about misused tech, the Enoch fall was about distorted embodiment. Now, one severed us from Earth, the other severed us from trust in ourselves. You're here to anchor the return of both. Yeah. And that is what my work is about now. It's not just about helping people feel better, but who they bloody are, helping them remember who they were before the fall. And the Oracle Code is a system. Yeah, but more than that, it's a living map of human resurrection. It really is. It takes the fractured pieces, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, the ancestral, and the psychological, and it brings them back into alignment. You don't need to become more. You need to return. And you need to return to your original human blueprint, to your power, to your divine design. You know, so if something in this stirred you, if a part of you whispered, I know this rings so many bells, this feels so true to me. This isn't content, it's a remembering. And you're not broken, and you're certainly not behind, and you're certainly not too much or too late. You're the living key. And this is the invitation to come back online. And we're going to do, I'd like you to join me inside for the original human 3-day reboot. Now, it's not going to be until August that we're going to do that, end of August, where we'll clear the distortion, we'll recode the nervous system, and we'll begin the work of returning to who you were before they told you to be anything else. The link's down below. In fact, no, I'll tell you what, because I'd like it if you actually commented on this video and subscribed as well. It'd be really good to this podcast to bring this alive, and share it with your friends and family also. But put down below truth. That's all you need to do, truth. And I know you've got it. Put it in the comments. That'd be actually good. And let's rebuild this thing together. Let's help this planet. And by helping the planet, you help yourself first. I'm Anne Varney, spiritual teacher, author, and soul decoder. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.